The diverse panel is comprised of some incredible leaders who each bring a unique lens to their leadership and organization. Let's meet them. First, we have Beverly Anderson. Beverly Anderson is, woo, you heard from her earlier today. She is president and CEO of Seattle-based BECU, the fourth largest credit union in the United States, a financial services veteran with more than 30 years of experience in leadership roles in banking and payments industries. Ms. Anderson is responsible for all aspects of leading an organization, I love saying this, with nearly 1.4 million members and $28.8 billion in assets. She holds an MBA from Harvard Business School and graduated summa cum laude with a BS in business from Florida A&M University, highest of 7 Hills, 1887, College of Love and Charity. All right, then we have Gerardo Smith. Gerardo Smith became president and CEO of Educational Systems Federal Credit Union after serving as the chief financial officer since 2004. During his tenure, Mr. Smith has led its financial operations and strategic direction, which has resulted in surpassing the $1 billion in assets milestone. He is committed to serving the education community by offering customized solutions and excellence in member service. Mr. Smith is driven to shape a culture of teamwork and inclusion within our industry and played an integral role in partnering with the African American Credit Union Coalition to form the Rosemary Brinkley C-Level Leadership Development Program. And Mr. Smith also just gave $10,000 to the Legacy Sponsorship. Thank you again, Mr. Smith. John Bissell joined the Greylock Federal Credit Union team in 2003 and was named CEO in 2015. Under his leadership, Greylock earned CDFI and Juntos Avanzamos certifications and made deep investments in anti-racism and financial inclusion initiatives. Mr. Bissell currently serves as a board director for AACUC and served on the steering committee that created AACUC's cross-cultural exchange program. He earned a Bachelor of Science from Amherst College and an MBA from the University of Massachusetts. He is a graduate of New England School for Financial Services program at Babson College. The panel will be moderated by Australia Hoover. Mr. Hoover is the president and CEO of CDC Federal Credit Union. Mr. Hoover joined the credit union in 1996 and has held a variety of leadership positions. He is a graduate of the Virginia Commonwealth University, where he earned a BA in economics, and Regis University, where he earned an MBA. He is a strong advocate for financial literacy and equal access to technology for underserved communities. He's a member of the steering committees of FinTech Talents North America. He believes that everyone deserves access to affordable financial services, and he is committed to making CDCFC a resource for the community. Presenting insightful leadership, CEOs of billion-dollar credit unions. Please help me welcome this panel.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. How's my audio? Can you hear me okay? All right, excellent. So I'm so happy that there is no PowerPoint presentation for this because my before and after photos would probably clear the room. So spare me for that. That's very inspirational, Emma. Thank you for that. I hope everyone's been enjoying the conference. I can tell you that this is something that has been very inspirational for me to be in the midst of such dedicated and helpful people who have given their lives to the credit union movement. And this conference for me has really been about sharing and spreading the good news and the good work about what credit unions do day in and day out. And so I am honored to be on the stage this afternoon with some very inspirational and dedicated leaders of organizations that are leading the credit union movement. And so before we jump right in and get down to business, because I think CEOs typically like to solve problems, but before we do that, maybe we'll take just a minute to have each panelist give some words about themselves and maybe their organizations to kind of set the stage for what the conversation this afternoon would be like. So let's start with you, Beverly, if you don't mind.
Sure. And by the way, please call me Bev. The organization does, and many of my friends do. So I'm, again, delighted to be here. Spent a little time earlier today just talking about legacy and the things that have gotten me to this place. I'm super excited to be the CEO of BECU, and it is not lost on me what an honor it is that I'm in that seat. BECU is an incredible organization, very driven by its mission and purpose. At 28, almost 29 billion in assets, 1.4 million members, and just a ton of opportunity. We are in the midst of a major transformation. I can talk a little bit more later about reorganization, new vision and strategy, really trying to focus on getting members from access to health, to prosperity, to freedom. And that is that's an inspirational vision and rallying cry for us in an organization. But we really believe that there's an opportunity for us to reimagine how we serve members in order to do that. So very excited to lead this incredible organization and a wonderful team, and a great team over here.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you for that. Gerardo?
So yes, I'm Gerardo Smith. I've been with Educational Systems Federal Credit Union for 25 years. As mentioned earlier, I served as, I was actually hired as the accounting manager, and we'll talk a little bit about that journey because it's important. But we're a $1.3 billion educational-based, credit union, so we're laser focused on the education community, and providing services and solutions for that community. I've been the CEO since January, so I'm I'm new in the role. Our vision, our direction, is pretty clear pathway. We might be looking at different ways to get there. I'm super passionate about giving back and uplifting people who need help. So I'm kind of laser focused on how to make a big difference. There's a lot of conversation here about legacy, and it's funny because I hadn't always been the type of person that thought about my legacy. I don't spend a night now thinking about my legacy and the changes that I'd like myself and our organization to be recognized for. So it's an honor to be on this panel. I've watched AACUC. I've known Renee for a long time, and I've watched AACUC, grow. I remember when Renee was working out of her living room, and I would help her with accounting kind of stuff. And it's just amazing, to be here and to be sitting up on this panel. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. John, how about you?
Well, it's great to see you all. What a beautiful room. How's everyone doing today? Great to see you. It's such a privilege to be here and to be part of, as was mentioned earlier, I am privileged to be on the board of the AACUC, and just want to give a huge shout out to Miss Renee for her tremendous leadership and all my fellow board members. It is an honor and privilege to serve with each and every one of you, and I've been so inspired throughout this week as I was last year in Tampa. These are life-changing events for me. I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we go along. So I am privileged to be the CEO of Greylock Federal Credit Union. I've been the CEO for about 8 years, been part of the credit union for about 20. But I really grew up with the credit union. We were originally a GE Employees Credit Union up in Western Massachusetts, the Pittsfield GE Employees Credit Union. My dad was a GE employee for 30 years. And GE is gone, but the credit union is still here. And that story tells you a lot about the change in the regional economy up in rural Western Mass, where I live, in Eastern New York, and a lot of our post-industrial communities up and down this entire country, really, but especially in the Northeast. Previously, my hometown was full of well-paying jobs in engineering and construction and industrial design and manufacturing. There was 12 divisions of GE were based right there in my hometown. They're all gone. And so we've been our credit union's been part of helping people make that difficult, painful transition from a manufacturing base to really a services and tourism and hospitality economy. And it's been very painful, and I'm proud of the role that our credit union has played. I'm joined at this conference by one of our board members, Mr. Ty Jackson, who's he's an author. He's an expert in financial literacy and really helps kids adopt financial literacy and literacy. He's the literacy champion up and down the entire country. And our Vice President for DEI, Rachel Melendez-Mabey. Thank you for making the trek out here, folks. Really appreciate it. So just to wrap up, we are a low-income designated credit union. 75% of our households are low and moderate income. We have 100,000 members, and 75% of those households are low and moderate income. Many of them are really working 5 or 6 jobs in that household just to make ends meet. So we're low-income designated. We are a CDFI, and we're proud to be a Juntos Avanzamos credit union. Thank you to our friends at Inclusive for being on that journey with us, and thank you for having me on this panel, Australia.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I think I'm the type of person who likes to kind of jump right in with the tough stuff. We don't have a lot of time, so I guess we'll just jump right in. So since the title of this panel is Insightful Leadership, I'd like to get some insights on what do you believe are the biggest challenges for the credit union industry? And if I were to ask the question in a different way, what keeps you up at night? And so let's start with you.
Start with me?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I've been told by my communications leader that I have to correct something I said, so let me do this. So when I was on stage earlier and I was talking about 50% of Americans can't afford I think I said $1 million. You know what, it's so funny because I saw your faces and I thought, okay, well, maybe you just didn't know. I meant 1,000, so I wanted to correct the record. Thank you. Okay. Am I good now? Am I good? Okay. All right. So it's interesting, right? Because I joined in December and thought, okay, great, yeah, there's some rockiness in the economy, but I'll have a little time, life will be okay while I get up to speed and understand what's going on. And then immediately March happened, where Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic had an event, a situation, and obviously a challenge around risk management, which led to liquidity and capital challenges. This is an unprecedented time for not all of us, but some of us who have only seen a period since 2008, 2009 of low rate environment. This is a time of quite uncertainty in the macro environment. So that's the first of probably 3 things that keep me up at night. Making sure that we are doing a good job as an organization with asset liability management, understanding where we sit from a liquidity perspective. I don't know about you, but deposits have been, during the peak of the pandemic, we had an ample amount of deposits, and we're still fine. Our liquidity ratios are very strong, but we've certainly seen, that runoff or competitive issue around deposits over the last several weeks and months. So the macroeconomic environment, how do you think about liquidity? How do you think about inflation and its impact on the economy? And then what's going to happen to interest rates? And we've seen an unprecedented rise in interest rates. So just making sure we've got the right lenses on how we're managing the balance sheet. And that's the first thing. I think the second thing for me is the change in the industry, from technology to our members' expectations around how they do business with us. Their need for digitization, their desire for on-demand efforts. And I don't know if you saw an article over the last week or so about who's winning the war for checking accounts. The answer was, it's not banks, right? It's fintech. So all of the changing dynamics in the financial services space, and while we're cooperatives and we know our members love us, they have access to all kinds of ways to do their banking, their financial services activities, and we have to keep up. And probably the last thing I would say is talent, and specifically sitting in the Pacific Northwest, the ongoing battle for talent is amazing. The cost of technology talent with Microsoft and Google and all of the others kind of around the area has been unbelievable. The opportunity, though, for us is that we've stood up, we are now hiring talent in places like Atlanta, Georgia, and in Texas, just to find opportunities to find diverse, capable, skilled talent in places that maybe we haven't looked before. So those are the 3 things that certainly have captured my attention in the last 7 months.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Gerardo, we're going to let you close this one out. I'm going to skip past you and ask John the same question. Okay. And then you'll get a few more minutes to think about your answer. How about that?
Okay. So what keeps me up at night, there's a lot of stuff to keep us up at night, right? The number one thing I think for our industry is maintaining our ongoing relevance, and to me, the most important thing we can do is to address the deep economic inequality in this country. It's to me, the biggest source of instability is this deep unfairness that exists. We saw today the president of the San Francisco FHLB statistics showing that the racial homeownership gap has gotten worse since the passage of the Fair Housing Act. That's just one symptom of this deep underlying inequality and inequity that still exists at the root of our economy. And I think as credit unions, our job is to address that. We're working hard on that in our region. What keeps me up at night for my institution is we're about $1.6 billion now, as I said. The larger we get, the more I'm striving to have the credit unions still act in ways that we've behaved in a highly responsive way to the community that we were when we were 100 million or 200 million or 300 million. My friend Nathan Cox is the CEO of Inroads Credit Union in Portland. He's right over here. They're about 400 million, and I asked him why members choose his credit union. It's because in that region, a rural region, they're one of the only responsive community financial institutions around. Deborah Fears runs a $30 million credit union in Chicago, primarily for postal workers. Same thing. She takes care of her members. They have credit challenges. It's her credit union that will work with them. My $1.6 billion credit union needs to have that same level of responsiveness and care, even as we develop more bureaucracy and scale and all of that stuff. I feel like my job is to, in part, push against the very bureaucracy that on one hand I'm helping create. I can't let it get in the way of making a deep, meaningful difference in the lives of our membership.
Thank you. Gerardo?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting when I think about a question like that, because of my background, the first place that I would typically go would be, the financial side of it, and everything that Beverly indicated is absolutely true, and it's a concern, that we all have. But I thought I would take a different approach, in answering, that question. And when I'm driving at home, in the evening, one of the things that I'm thinking about is, what can I do to drive our organization in a direction where we're making just a significant difference in, our members' lives. Like, every day I have become passionate about solving that problem. Beverly talked about the Silicon Valley situation and the failed banks, but one of the lately, what bothers me and what keeps me up and just trying to understand what the impact will be, are some of the decisions that's just been made by the Supreme Court, and how those decisions are going to impact the lives of people of color. I'm wildly concerned about that. And so, that's something that that I ponder with, and I think about all the time. And I think what it does for me is it motivates me and our organization, to figure out ways to be positively impact our members' lives. But if I kind of relegate it to a word, I think about relevance too. I mean, I'm concerned about the relevance of, our industry. We have something that no other financial services industry has, and it's that compassion that we have for serving, the members in the communities that we serve. And we do that better than anybody in the world. And, making sure that our members understand that, and, making sure that we stay in a place where we continue to provide, relevant opportunities, access, to members. The reality of it is our members have access. They have capacities to be anywhere. They can go anywhere, and they're getting pulled all over the place. Everyone is after our members' wallets. And I think we have to be vigilant about that. We have to understand that. We have to make sure that we stay on top of, technologies to ensure that, we're offering our members the things that they need to keep them with us, because we know that from a personal touch perspective, they can't get that anywhere else. So And the other thing are our employees. Our organization, since the pandemic, we have gone to, we're pretty much a remote employer. 90% of our back office works remotely. And again, it's created opportunities for us as well. I mean, we recruit and hire from all over I wouldn't say all over the country now, but I think we have hired in 9 states, now. And so that creates, a bit of a, concern with how, talk about culture, and culture, we'll talk about culture later, but culture is a huge thing for me. But, figuring out a way to keep your culture cultivated and moving in the right direction when you have employees, spread out all over the country, and working remotely. That's a challenge that we relish, and and that we're working through. But I similar to our members, our employees have opportunities as well. I mean, it's the unemployment rate, 3.3%. I mean, so our employees are being poked all of the time. Your employees are being poked all of the time. So figuring out ways to, keep our employees, engaged and motivated, and, staying steadfast with the mission, that we're on. It's always something that's on my mind, and I'm trying to figure out and trying to, keep that kind of going within our organization, and, throughout, from, top to bottom, from the board all the way down to our entry-level teller. Those things are important. So, it's always on my mind.
Absolutely. So what strikes me in those answers, and I would agree with everything that the panelists said, I think for most of us in the room who may not be parts of billion-dollar credit unions, a lot of the issues are the same. Mm-hmm. And I think we'd probably prioritize the issues in a very similar way. So that's very insightful, so I appreciate that. John, let's start with you on this next question. So I'm a firm believer that we're only as good as the people who get developed under our leadership.
Right on.
And so how does leadership show up inside of your organization? I know you've been CEO for 8 years, but you were with your credit union much longer than being CEO. Right. So you've probably seen leadership from several perspectives inside your credit union. So how does it show up inside your credit union under your ultimate leadership today?
Well, thank you, Australia. Yeah, to me, leadership is everything. I recently had the opportunity to move my office within the same building, same Greylock building, from one end of the building to the other. And I've been there 20 years, been CEO for 8 years, so I had piles of paper and file cabinets full of stuff and books and binders. And I finally got serious about, okay, how much of this stuff do I need? How much of it's still meaningful? How much of it was ever meaningful? And I'm a huge believer in strategy and planning. I do take those disciplines very seriously, but I had so many 3-ring binders that took up a whole wall. And as I really looked at all that stuff, I realized that I recycled 95% of it, because what I realized was, at the end of the day, what was most important wasn't all the stuff that we put into the content, the products. It was the people, having the right people in the right places, making the right decisions that really mattered, and the relationships that we had built. One thing I've really learned is that life puts people, and you get people encounter in your life at the right time. For me, it was 10 or 12 years ago, I was in a leadership development class. I was the EVP at Greylock. And I met Adrian Johnson in a leadership development class. I think we were in North Carolina. And in walks the Adrian Johnson. That's how he was described earlier today. We got to know each other. We got to be friends. I'm privileged to say he's still a good friend. And years later, he introduced me to Renee Sattywhite and the AACUC, and here I am. And that was completely changed the lens through which I saw our credit union movement. In 2014, I attended an inclusive conference. At the time, they were the Federation of Community Development Credit Unions. Attended their conference in Detroit in 2014. Met Pablo, met Kathy, met their fabulous team. That completely changed the path of our credit union to where we are now today. Our vision is that we are the face of financial inclusion in the communities that we serve. That's our board-approved vision. And that wouldn't be the case if it hadn't been for meeting all of these people. So what I really realized is leadership is all about relationships, and it's all about trust, ultimately. What I work on a lot, Australia, is developing enough psychological safety in the organization that the people on our team feel confident and safe enough to challenge me, to push each other. That's how we get to the best decisions. If we just have diversity, we need diverse perspectives, but we really need to hear people, and we need to hear their authentic thoughts on things. That's how we get to much better decisions. And so I work a lot on our culture and on developing that sense of psychological safety where people can say, hold on, I think you're missing it. I think you've got a blind spot. I need them to challenge me that way, and that's what creates stronger leadership. So that's what we spend an awful lot of time on. And I look in my organization for people who will tell me what I need to know even when it hurts, and they do, and it does, but I need that. And I have other truth tellers in my orbit around the industry as well who can kind of tell me what I need to know when I need to know it. So
That is so important, isn't it? Gerardo, how do you feel about leadership and how it shows up inside your credit union?
Yeah, well, it's funny how similar paths and stories and perspectives are with everyone. But obviously, I think leadership starts from the very top. Again, I've been the CEO for 7 months. I've been coming to these events for quite a while. This is the first year that my board chair, Alonia Sharps, is here, and going through the process of being selected for this job. There was a lot of discussion about leadership and the direction that I wanted to lead the organization. We've heard the term servant leadership, a lot, over the last couple of days. I'm a pretty humble guy, and I like to lead by example. I like for people to be, comfortable, speaking to me. Again, I really have an open door policy. I encourage people to share their thoughts. And I have a couple other of my team members here, and they will attest to the fact that they can tell me anything. They can share anything with me. I'm open-minded, and they're very comfortable sharing things with me when I'm not going in the right direction. And I encourage that throughout the entire organization. So one of the things that I like to do, as a leader is I want people to, we have these roles, and it just comes with the territory. So we look different, and people look at us different, and it's sometimes it's complicating for people to understand, that it is okay, to talk to us and have conversations with us. So one of the things that I like to do, in my organization with the few folks that are actually, still in the office, is every day I get up, I walk around, I speak to everyone, and I make it my business to see everyone that's actually in the office, working in the office, because it's a battleground, and I want the team to know that I'm in it with them, and building a culture of trust, building a safe space for people to be able to to talk and articulate their thoughts. I used to sit around and, we have a 6-7 person executive team, and, we have a significant responsibility, but I'm always thinking, like, we have 200, 210, people in our organization. It's like, if we're not listening to them, like, how much horsepower are we leaving? And we can't know everything. And so I encourage that, I encourage that participation, and since I've been, in the position, I've created, culture. I'm creating culture teams to bring individuals together. When we have large projects that we're working in, I'm bringing in cohorts of the organization from all levels to participate, share their thoughts. I mean, at the end of the day, the folks that on the front line, they probably have way more answers than we do, to be perfectly frank, right? And so, so I encourage that, and that involvement. And one of the things that I think that has really resonated, in our organization is like when we bring these groups together, everyone's titles stay outside the room. No titles come in the room. Everybody's opinion is important. And it breeds an atmosphere of leadership, accountability. People hold people around them accountable. When they work in an environment like that. And so, I'm trying to foster an organization that continuously includes everyone. Everyone takes a role in what's going on. Feel responsible, feel accountable. I have this mission, and it is that when my employees, everyone, when you wake up in the morning, you're excited about coming into work every day. And it's my goal to have 210 people feel that way, and providing good leadership and allowing people to lead and be heard and be respected is how I'm trying to drive leadership in the organization.
Thank you for that. Beverly, would you like to close this one out? About leadership?
I think John and Gerardo said a lot that I completely agree with. So I'll just quickly say, I think leadership has to obviously start from the top, but I'm really trying to build leaders all throughout the organization. There's so much change happening right now in our organization. We've reorged, we've got a new strategy. I'm a new leader and a new CEO. And I'm listening to the team. I've spent a lot of time, with the teams, going to our neighborhood financial centers, visiting with our member-facing teams, spending time with our ERGs, and had dinner recently with the Black Employee Resource Group, and had just a wonderful, open conversation. And I think what I'm hearing most from folks is that they want opportunities to lead. They want development, they want growth, and they want the ability to help put their own stamp on the organization. And I think as leaders, we have to open up that opportunity for them. We have to give people, thank you, we have to give people paths that they can see, paths that they can reach for. So that's one of the things that I'm really, really excited about, and I may be calling you about your development program. That sounds very interesting. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that, and I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. So Gerardo, I'll let you take this next question. I think members are, or should be, in my opinion, at the center of the decisions that we make as credit union leaders. Talk to me about how do you feel credit unions in general, and specifically your credit union, how can we strengthen relationships with members? I mean, back to the basics. How should we be doing that, in your opinion?
I strongly believe that the environment that we're in today, we need to, we have to kind of pivot our thought. I think that as credit unions, we do, one thing in particular exceptionally well. But I think in today's world, with all of the options that that our members have, you think about the Amazons, you're like, everything is right now, and I don't think that's changing. I don't think that's changing. I think that our members ultimately will expect for us to be able to deliver to them, in a similar fashion. I think what that will say to our members is that, we are paying attention. We are in this. We are in this with you. We recognize, your needs and your desires, and we're kind of going along and growing and providing, those opportunities, for you. Someone was speaking earlier today, and I don't remember who it was, but we were just talking about, what members' experiences are when they have contact with our member service representatives and the people who, they meet. I mean, it's just again, it's second to none. But the reality of it is the generation that's coming up now, I don't know if it's equally as important to them. For that generation, which I'm starting to focus on because they're here. They're going to be the most significant part of our workforce. The Gen Z is going to be the most significant part of our workforce here in the next few years, and figuring out a way to meet their demands. I think it's a big deal, and I think that's going to be what continue. That's going to be one of the things that is going to continue, to show them that we're an important part of their financial journey, and that we want to be there for them. So I think we're going to have to accept that. I think we're going to have to figure out ways to be, to deliver products and service, in a nimble fashion, so they are, getting the things, the timing and the way that they want them. I think that the future is going to require that, we be able to deliver that. And I think the other part, in terms of our service and, and how we, communicate and our passion for, their futures, and that'll be clear to them. And I think that's our secret sauce. But I think it's going to take. That's what I think it's going to take for us to maintain those members moving forward. Our members moving forward.
I agree. Other thoughts on membership and member relations and strengthening those memberships?
Yeah, I can just quickly say I loved how Gerardo and Beverly brought out the idea of listening to our employees. Clearly, to me, the employee experience drives the member experience. Mm-hmm. So if we really want to build more member relationships, we've got to make sure our employees have everything they need to be successful, make sure they feel very, very supported. And I think at the end of the day, our employees and our members are both looking for the same thing. They want an institution they can trust, a credit union they can trust, and they need to know what our values are and what we stand for and what we won't stand for. And to me, that's been important to understand how trust has been violated in our community where I live. When GE pulled out and shattered thousands of lives, 12,000 jobs in our small region vanished quickly. My dad's was one of them. And that felt like a huge violation of trust. And that really impacted tens of thousands of households in our region. In addition, in communities of color, trust has been violated for hundreds of years. One of the ways that we entered into that conversation with our credit union was we commissioned a study on the impact of historic redlining practices in Pittsfield, my hometown. Pittsfield is small. At our peak, we were 65,000 people. Now we're about 40,000 people. We think of redlining as a practice that took place in Baltimore and Detroit and other major urban region areas, and it certainly did. But the question was, could some of what we see today, the deep inequality that exists in my community, could that also be a result of redlining? And we commissioned a study, and sure enough, the same maps that you see in other parts of the country, there was a map for Pittsfield. The same kind of terrible redlining happened right in my community. When I commute to my office, it's a 3-mile drive from my home in southeast Pittsfield to our headquarters, which is right at the intersection of downtown Pittsfield and the west side. The west side is our historically black community, and that's where the redlining took place. The life expectancy is 9.5 years less on the west side than it is in my neighborhood. 3 miles, a decade's difference in life expectancy today. That is a direct result. That's not a statistic I would have known, but it was identified in this study. We published that study in concert with our local chapter of the NAACP. They helped us look at the results, understand the results, come to grips with the results, and then turn the results into action. And we are now we're a partner in a Black home ownership project program. We're following a Black vision established by a small nonprofit on the west side. We're their lending partner. It's their vision that we're following. But that's just one example of how we try to build trust, by being truthful about our past, our shared past, and what we're going to do about it going forward. And then lastly, in our immigrant community, of course, trust is violated by an immigration system that's broken. And so we want to be a trusted financial partner. We need to help folks on that journey. We have for many years been the only financial institution doing ITIN loans and banking relationships. The banks have finally figured out that, hey, that's an area for growth. And so they're sort of trying to figure it out. But we really had a head start in that because of our partners in Inclusive helping us to understand that. We went from doing, not even knowing we could do ITIN relationships, individual tax ID numbers, for people who are on a pathway to citizenship, from doing 0 of those loans or those relationships in 2015. Last year we did $8 million of ITIN loans. So that's the kind of growth that we can achieve for mutual benefit in our community if we understand, if we enter into a conversation based on trust. So those are the things that are on my mind, Mr. Hoover, think about our membership.
Thank you for that. Would you like to,
You know-
and you said something in your introduction that stuck with me about goals and a strategy around members.
Yes.
And talk to us about
Right. You know, what's so exciting about BECU and what honestly is what's so different about working for a bank is this just maniacal focus on our members. And that's around the credit union. Thank you. It's unbelievable just how much we spend time thinking about what are the needs of our members. And we've just been doing some work at a segment level. And I think you do this whether you're a $10 million credit union or a $28 billion credit union, understanding all the segments that you serve. Not everybody's the same. And they have different needs, different aspirations. And what we realized is that we've got a 30% kind of population of people who we're probably not serving well enough. They have needs that are more akin to people who may be less well served. And how do we create education? How do we create products that serve their needs around access to lending and credit? You know, how do we help them build the right kinds of savings if they're literally living paycheck to paycheck? You know, I get so frustrated when I see these, you know, campaigns around save, and they're pointed at people who literally are just trying to make tough decisions about whether they're going to pay a bill or put gas in the car. So that means we've got to serve them in a different way. To me, that's that next nugget of insight that gives us the ability to start to innovate. And that's how I think we're going to serve members differently. That's when we say reimagining, that's what we mean. Getting to that next level of detail. And you can serve them on the front line, you can serve them across all the channels, but members need new kinds of resources and capabilities to solve problems. And we've just got to think more broadly about what that looks like. So, you know, I'm excited about doing some of that work, as you might be able to tell.
Yes, I can tell. It's very evident. It's hard to believe that 45 minutes has essentially flown by. I wish we had another 45 minutes to keep the conversation going. We didn't even get to all the topics that we wanted to discuss today, but in the final few seconds that we have left, real quick, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, what leadership advice would you give to aspiring leaders?
Build those relationships. Whoever you're encountering here this week, really form a bond with them. Those are going to be your best friends for life, I promise you. And never stop learning. I went back and I'm turning 56 this year. I earned my MBA when I was 52, and I'm in a leadership development class right now. So always be on that path.
Gerardo?
Stay hungry. You know, stay hungry. You know, always look for opportunities. Don't turn your back on opportunities. Opportunities is not always associated with dollars. So take advantage of them when they present themselves to you. Continue to build relationships. You know, stay focused on the future. Be insightful. Be helpful. Be servient. Pull people along. It'll take you a long ways.
Excellent.
Oh dear, I probably so many things to say. I would say know your worth. There were so many times through this journey where I thought somebody was going to take me out, and I just kept showing back up. Know that our communities need people like us in roles like this to make the difference that we all know that we need and can make. So just know your worth and just keep leaning in.
We are officially out of time. Once again, thank you so much to the esteemed panelists.
Yeah.
And I hope this was as meaningful for you as it was for me. So thank you.